Your mind can be your greatest weapon or your most dangerous enemy. Every battle you fight in life is won or lost right here, before the world ever sees it. The same mind that can build dreams can also destroy them, not with failure, but with hesitation, doubt, and endless overthinking. You don't lose because you're incapable. You lose because you let your thoughts run wild without direction. Today isn't about motivation, it's about control. Because when you take control of your mind, you take control of your future. Your mind is a tool, not your master. Your mind is the most powerful instrument you will ever own. Yet most people live their entire lives letting it run without direction, without discipline, without command, and that is where suffering begins. Because the moment you allow your thoughts to lead instead of serve, you surrender control of your life. The mind was never meant to be a dictator. It was designed to be a servant, a sharp and reliable tool that helps you analyze, decide, and execute. But when left unchecked, it becomes noisy, fearful, and destructive, constantly replaying the past and rehearsing disasters that have not even happened yet. Overthinking is not wisdom, it is misuse. And misuse of power always comes with consequences. Every negative spiral starts the same way. A single thought is given too much attention, too much emotion, too much importance, until it grows into a belief. And that belief quietly shapes your actions, your confidence, and your destiny. You must understand this clearly. Thoughts are not facts, feelings are not commands, and imagination is not reality. Just because your mind produces a thought does not mean it deserves a seat at the table. Discipline begins when you stop identifying with every idea that crosses your mind and start observing them instead, choosing deliberately which ones align with your purpose and which ones must be dismissed without negotiation. A strong person is not someone who never doubts. A strong person is someone who refuses to let doubt make decisions. When you wake up each day, your mind will test you, reminding you of past failures, exaggerating future risks, questioning your worth. But that is not truth speaking, that is habit, and habits can be broken. Control is built in moments when you feel overwhelmed yet still choose clarity, when you feel uncertain yet still commit, when your mind tells you to retreat but your values tell you to move forward. The problem with most people is not lack of intelligence or opportunity, it is lack of authority over their inner world. They let moods dictate effort, let fear dictate timing, let anxiety dictate identity. But the moment you reclaim authority, everything changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop being pulled by emotion and start being guided by intention. You begin to understand that peace does not come from eliminating thoughts, but from mastering focus. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and if your attention is constantly trapped in worry, regret, and imagined failure, your energy will never reach your potential. A controlled mind understands timing. It knows when to think and when to act, when to analyze, and when to trust preparation. Overthinking kills momentum, and momentum is the currency of success. Every achievement you admire was built by someone who learned how to silence unnecessary noise and commit fully to the task in front of them. They did not wait for perfect confidence. They acted their way into it. You must train yourself to do the same, to treat your mind like a powerful machine that needs direction, not a wild force that controls your behavior. This requires daily practice, catching negative self-talk the moment it appears, interrupting destructive patterns, replacing weak narratives with stronger ones. It means refusing to replay conversations that no longer matter, refusing to relive moments you cannot change, refusing to predict outcomes you cannot control. Freedom begins when you accept that you do not need to attend every argument your mind invites you to. Some thoughts deserve silence, not solutions. And as you grow in this discipline, you will notice a shift. Clarity replaces chaos, confidence replaces hesitation, and action replaces paralysis. You stop waiting for motivation and start relying on standards. You stop asking, what if, and start asking, what now? Because the present moment is the only place where power exists. A mind under control does not panic under pressure, it sharpens. It does not collapse under uncertainty, it adapts. It understands that discomfort is temporary, but regret lasts forever. When you master your mind, you stop being afraid of failure because you realize failure is feedback, not a verdict. You realize that your worth is not defined by outcomes, but by effort, integrity, and growth. And once that understanding locks in, overthinking loses its grip because you no longer need to predict every step. You trust yourself to adjust along the way. That trust is built through action, repetition, and self-respect. Each time you do what you said you would do, your mind learns to follow instead of resist. Each time you face fear instead of avoiding it, your confidence compounds. Control is not about force, it is about alignment. Align your thoughts with your goals, your habits with your values, and your focus with your future. When your mind becomes your tool, not your master, you stop living in survival mode and start operating with purpose, and that is where real power begins. Overthinking is fear wearing a mask. Overthinking is often misunderstood. Many people believe it means they are being careful, intelligent, or deeply thoughtful, but in reality, overthinking is fear dressed up as logic. It is fear trying to protect you by keeping you stuck. It convinces you that thinking more will save you from pain, embarrassment, or failure, when in fact it does the opposite. Overthinking does not prepare you for life. It postpones your growth. It keeps you trapped in your head while life passes you by. At its core, overthinking is a lack of trust in yourself, trust in your ability to adapt, and trust in the process of life. When you don't trust yourself to handle challenges as they come, your mind tries to control the future. It replays scenarios, imagines worst case outcomes, and magnifies risks until action feels impossible. This is not wisdom, it is avoidance. Fear would rather keep you comfortable and stagnant than allow you to risk discomfort for progress. Fear is clever, it rarely announces itself directly. Instead, it whispers questions like, what if this goes wrong? Or what if I'm not good enough? These thoughts feel reasonable, even responsible, but they are rooted in self-doubt. Overthinking gives fear time to grow. The longer you sit with these thoughts, the stronger they become, until fear starts feeling like truth. That is why people who overthink often feel exhausted without ever moving forward. Their energy is spent fighting imagined battles. One of the most dangerous aspects of overthinking is how it creates the illusion of control. Your mind tells you that if you analyze every detail, you can prevent failure. But life does not work that way. You cannot think your way into certainty. There will always be unknowns. Waiting until everything feels safe is a guarantee that you will never move. Growth lives on the other side of uncertainty, not inside it. Overthinking also feeds perfectionism. Fear convinces you that you must get everything right before you begin. It tells you that one mistake will define you, that failure will expose you, that people are watching and judging. This pressure suffocates creativity and courage. Progress does not come from being perfect, it comes from being willing. Every successful person you admire once started unsure, unready, and imperfect, but they moved anyway. Another trap of overthinking is how it keeps you stuck in the past. Fear replays old mistakes to remind you of what could go wrong again. It takes moments that should be lessons and turns them into life sentences. Instead of learning and moving forward, you relive the pain repeatedly. This cycle drains confidence and reinforces the belief that you are not capable. But the past is a teacher, not a prison. Its purpose is to inform you, not to define you. Overthinking also steals joy from the present moment. When your mind is constantly racing ahead to imagined problems, you miss what is happening right now. You lose focus, gratitude, and clarity. Fear pulls you out of the present because the present is where action happens. Staying stuck in your head is safer than showing up fully, but safety without growth eventually becomes suffering. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite it. Overthinking fades when you face fear head on. The moment you take action, fear loses its power. Movement exposes fear for what it truly is, an emotion, not a command. Each step forward proves to your mind that you are capable, adaptable, and stronger than you believed. You must learn to recognize overthinking for what it is. The moment you catch yourself replaying the same thoughts without progress, ask yourself one question. Is this helping me move forward? If the answer is no, then it is fear speaking, not reason. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. Trust is the antidote to overthinking. Trust that you will learn. Trust that you will recover. Trust that you can handle challenges as they arise. Life rewards those who move with courage, not those who wait for guarantees. You don't need to know every step, you only need to take the next one. When you stop feeding fear with constant attention, it begins to shrink. Overthinking loses its grip when you choose action over analysis, faith over doubt, and progress over perfection. Fear may still speak, but it no longer controls. And in that moment, you stop surviving and start living. Action silences the noise. The mind becomes loud when life becomes still. When you stop moving, your thoughts start running. Doubt grows in hesitation, fear multiplies in delay, and overthinking thrives in inaction. Action is not just a step forward, it is a weapon. It cuts through confusion, breaks mental loops, and restores clarity. The fastest way to quiet a noisy mind is not more thinking, but decisive movement. Most people believe they need clarity before action. In reality, clarity comes from action. Waiting to feel ready is one of the greatest lies the mind tells. Readiness is built, not found. Every step you take teaches you something new. Every move forward reveals information you could never access by thinking alone. Action turns uncertainty into understanding. Overthinking convinces you that you must solve everything mentally before you begin, but life does not reward planners who never move. It rewards doers who adjust. Action exposes what works and what doesn't. Thinking only imagines outcomes. Action tests reality, and reality is always a better teacher than imagination. When you act, your focus shifts outward. Your mind stops spinning inward on fears and starts responding to real demands. This is why people feel calmer when they are working, training, building, or creating. Purposeful movement grounds the mind. It replaces anxiety with engagement. Noise fades when attention is fully occupied. Fear loses power in motion. While standing still, fear feels huge. Once you take the first step, fear begins to shrink. The second step weakens it further. Momentum is fear's enemy. The longer you move, the quieter fear becomes. Courage is not built in thought, it is built in repetition. Action also builds self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, you send a message to your mind, I can rely on myself. That trust compounds. Over time, your mind stops questioning every decision because evidence replaces doubt. Confidence is not an emotion, it is a record of kept promises to yourself. Small actions matter more than dramatic ones. Overthinking often waits for a perfect plan or a big breakthrough, but progress is built on simple, consistent steps. One phone call, one workout, one honest conversation, 1 hour of focused effort. These actions may seem small, but they create rhythm, and rhythm creates stability. Action breaks the addiction to comfort. Overthinking keeps you safe but stagnant. Action introduces discomfort, but discomfort is where growth lives. Each time you choose action over avoidance, your tolerance for discomfort increases. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes routine. There will never be a moment when fear completely disappears. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to move with it. Action teaches your mind that fear does not equal danger. Over time, fear stops triggering paralysis and starts signaling opportunity. You stop running from challenges and start leaning into them. Action also simplifies life. Thinking complicates. The mind creates endless scenarios, possibilities, and outcomes. Action narrows focus to what matters now. What can be done today? What is the next step? This simplicity is freeing. It reduces overwhelm and restores control. Many people confuse busyness with action. True action is intentional. It aligns with your values and goals. Mindless movement will not silence the noise. Purposeful action will. When your actions have direction, your mind finds peace. Chaos fades when effort has meaning. Mistakes will happen. Action guarantees them. But mistakes made in motion are lessons, not failures. Overthinking tries to avoid mistakes at all costs, but that avoidance costs growth. Every mistake carries information. Every setback sharpens judgment. Progress demands participation. You don't need confidence to act. Confidence is a result of action. Waiting for confidence is like waiting for strength before lifting weights. You lift first and strength follows. You act first and confidence follows. This order matters. Action trains your nervous system. Each time you step into discomfort and survive, your body learns that you are safe. Anxiety decreases, resilience increases. Overthinking fades because your system no longer perceives every challenge as a threat. There is power in starting before you feel ready. That power rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start seeing yourself as someone who moves. Identity shifts behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Action is the bridge. Silence does not come from avoiding problems, it comes from facing them. The mind calms when it sees progress. Even imperfect progress is enough to restore hope. Hope grows when effort is visible. If your mind feels loud, don't ask what to think, ask what to do. Movement creates answers, action creates peace. The more you move forward, the quieter the noise becomes. Train your mind like you train your body. No one expects a weak body to become strong without training, yet many people expect mental strength to appear without effort. The mind, like the body, responds to repetition, discipline, and consistency. If you don't train it, it weakens. If you train it poorly, it turns against you. Mental strength is not a gift, it is a practice. Every thought you repeat is a mental rep. Positive or negative, useful or destructive, the mind learns through repetition. When you constantly replay fear, self-doubt, and worst-case scenarios, you are training your mind to panic under pressure. When you repeatedly focus on purpose, solutions, and growth, you train your mind to stay calm and resilient. The mind becomes what you feed it. Training starts with awareness. You cannot control what you don't notice. Most people live on autopilot, reacting emotionally without questioning their inner dialogue. Mental training begins the moment you catch a negative thought and pause. That pause is power. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, discipline is born. Just like physical training, mental training is uncomfortable at first. Redirecting thoughts takes effort. Staying calm under stress feels unnatural, but discomfort is a sign of growth. Muscles burn before they grow, and the mind resists before it adapts. If it feels hard, you are doing it right. Consistency matters more than intensity. One moment of mindfulness will not change your life, just like one workout will not transform your body. Daily practice builds strength. Simple habits, morning focus, controlled breathing, intentional reflection, compound over time. Mental fitness is built quietly, not dramatically. Your environment is part of your training. What you watch, read, and listen to programs your mind. Constant negativity weakens mental endurance. Purposeful input strengthens it. You must protect your mental diet the same way you protect your physical health. Garbage in will always produce garbage out. Mental training also requires boundaries. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every emotion deserves expression. Strength is knowing when to engage and when to let go. Letting go is not weakness, it is control. A trained mind knows when silence is more powerful than reaction. Pressure reveals training. When life gets hard, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of preparation. If you haven't trained your mind, stress will expose it. If you have, pressure will sharpen you. Calm under chaos is not talent, it is conditioning. Self-talk is one of the most powerful training tools you have. The voice you speak to yourself with becomes your internal coach. If that voice is harsh, doubtful, or fearful, your performance will reflect it. Strong minds are built on firm but supportive self-talk, honest, disciplined, and encouraging. Mental endurance grows when you do hard things on purpose. Discipline in small areas strengthens discipline in big ones. Waking up when you don't feel like it, finishing tasks when motivation fades, staying focused when distractions call. These moments train the mind to obey intention, not impulse. Emotional control is part of mental fitness. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them without being ruled by them. A trained mind feels emotions fully but chooses responses carefully. Feelings inform decisions. They do not make them. Rest is also training. Just as muscles need recovery, the mind needs stillness. Reflection, silence, and intentional rest restore clarity. Burnout weakens mental strength. Balance sustains it. A disciplined mind knows when to push and when to pause. Training your mind builds resilience. Resilience is not avoiding hardship. It is recovering quickly. Trained minds bend without breaking. They adapt, learn, and continue. They do not collapse under pressure because they have practiced standing firm. You don't train your mind to be perfect. You train it to be reliable. Reliable under stress, reliable in uncertainty, reliable in failure. When your mind becomes reliable, fear loses control. Mental training is a lifelong process. There is no finish line, but every day you practice, you gain more control, more clarity, and more confidence. Just like the body, the mind rewards those who show up consistently. Train your mind with intention, and it will carry you through challenges instead of creating them. Strength is built, not wished for, and a trained mind becomes your greatest ally in life. Peace comes from trusting yourself. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the absence of self-doubt. Many people spend their lives searching for calm in external things, approval, certainty, success, or control, without realizing that true peace begins internally. At the center of a restless mind is a simple issue, a lack of trust in oneself. When you trust yourself, your mind settles. When you don't, it stays alert, anxious, and overactive. Self-trust means believing that no matter what happens, you will handle it. It does not mean you will always succeed or avoid pain. It means you trust your ability to adapt, learn, and recover. Overthinking exists because the mind doubts this ability. It tries to predict every outcome to avoid discomfort, but life cannot be predicted, only lived. Trust is built through experience, not affirmation. Telling yourself you believe in yourself means nothing if your actions say otherwise. Self-trust grows when you keep promises to yourself, face challenges instead of avoiding them, and take responsibility for your choices. Each action becomes evidence. Over time, that evidence quiets doubt. When you trust yourself, you stop needing constant reassurance. You no longer rely on others to validate every decision. External opinions lose their power because your internal compass becomes stronger. This independence creates peace. You move with confidence, not because you are certain, but because you are grounded. Self-trust reduces fear of failure. Failure no longer feels like a threat to your identity. It becomes part of the process. When you trust yourself, failure is feedback, not a verdict. You stop seeing mistakes as proof of inadequacy and start seeing them as information for growth. Trusting yourself also means accepting imperfection. You don't expect flawless decisions or perfect outcomes. You accept that you will sometimes get it wrong and that you can still move forward. Perfectionism fades when self-trust grows. You stop waiting for ideal conditions and start working with reality. Peace deepens when you stop trying to control everything. Control is a symptom of fear. Trust allows release. You focus on effort, not outcome. You do your part and let go of what you cannot command. This surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It frees mental energy and restores balance. Self-trust strengthens decision-making. When you trust your judgment, decisions become simpler. You don't endlessly revisit choices or replay scenarios. You commit and adjust if needed. This decisiveness reduces mental noise and emotional exhaustion. Trusting yourself improves emotional regulation. You no longer panic at discomfort. You allow emotions to rise and fall without overreacting. You know you can sit with discomfort without being destroyed by it. This emotional confidence is a foundation of inner peace. Relationships improve when self-trust increases. You stop clinging, over-explaining, or seeking approval. You communicate clearly and set boundaries confidently. Peace grows because you are no longer fighting to be understood. You are standing firmly in who you are. Self-trust also brings patience. You stop rushing life. You understand that growth takes time. You no longer compare your timeline to others. You move at your own pace, guided by purpose rather than pressure. This patience calms the mind. Letting go of overthinking requires faith, not blind faith, but earned faith. Faith built through action, resilience, and self-respect. Each challenge you survive strengthens that faith. Each obstacle you overcome becomes proof. Peace does not mean life becomes easier. It means you become stronger. Problems still exist, but they no longer dominate your thoughts. You face them directly and move forward without mental chaos. Trusting yourself turns fear into fuel. Instead of stopping you, fear reminds you that growth is near. You don't run from it, you step into it. That courage creates momentum, and momentum creates calm. The more you trust yourself, the less you need certainty. You stop demanding guarantees from life. You accept uncertainty as part of the journey. This acceptance frees you from constant mental tension. Inner peace is not found in controlling your mind, it is found in trusting the one who uses it. When you believe in your ability to handle life, overthinking fades, doubt weakens, calm becomes natural. Trust yourself enough to move forward without all the answers. Trust yourself enough to fail and recover. Trust yourself enough to grow. In that trust, you will find peace, not as a moment, but as a way of living.